Welcome to Ladies Talking Leafs patio season. I'm Chris.
And I'm Sil.
And we hope everyone's having a great summer. As you can see, my face is a little bit shiny. I'm not in air conditioning right now, so I have a fan blowing here. But we're doing good. And it's August, and it's been pretty quiet, not just with the Leafs, but around the NHL. So much so that the only thing I've been tracking is William Nylander's sister, Ella Nylander. I just want to share what I've noticed, I guess, from her. I would love to live the life of a hockey player's sister, an NHL hockey player's sister. It's just amazing. She's showing off her summer travels on Instagram very well, from food to fashion to the beach. I mean, she's just enjoying life. She's on the phone, lying on the beach, saying she's connected to Chanel. and eating all this like charcuterie board food, like very fresh looking food. And she's gone. Well, she started off in Toronto. She must have been staying at Willie's place here, obviously, and then she moved on to Saint Tropez, and then from there. Now, though, just today, I noticed that she's put another post, and now she's back in Sweden at the Swedish archipelago. Somewhere on some little island there. Looks quite nice. And I just wouldn't mind living that life for a little bit.
Oh, to be young again.
Oh, yes. Yeah, that too. Yeah. Showing off her wonderful, like all these clothing. It's very relaxed clothing she wears. So I don't mind her fashion sense.
Well,
too.
Good for her,
Yeah.
It's nice to be able to live the life of a world traveler like that, I guess.
Yeah, and having beautiful views from wherever she's staying. Yeah, it's just,
and we can just live vicariously through her and her Instagram.
Yeah. What have you noticed this summer?
To me, like we've talked about this before, I kind of feel like it's really been crickets around the Leafs right now, and to me, they're like so fortunate that the Jays are doing so well and everybody's on the Jays bandwagon that they can just kind of do whatever they're doing behind the scenes and no one's even really paying that much attention. So it's kind of good for them, I think, to be kind of out of the limelight right now, now that all the big news has dropped and is behind us. But back to the Nylanders, the one thing that I noticed is Willie won the Swedish Hockey Player of the Year award, which I guess is called the Golden Puck.
Yeah, no, and that's awarded to the best Swedish hockey player from this past season, and it's an award. It's been given out since 1956, actually. So it's quite the accomplishment for a Swedish hockey player, and he's also actually in the news because he was ranked number 6 in the league. NHL Network is doing a ranking of top players, and he was ranked number 6 as a top winger in the league, just behind our other favorite, Mitch Marner.
Wow,
only
that's interesting.
Yeah, only 1 point behind him, but in the list of top 20 NHL wingers, and he and teammate Chris Tanev, our proud Macedonian there. They were featured in the new trailer for EA Sports NHL 26, or they were part of it. Very, very small clip apparently, but at least they were in there. So
long as they're not on the cover, because the cover's cursed. So I'm kind of happy about that with Kachuk on the cover. So we'll see what happens there. But that's actually pretty cool. Yeah. And I mean, obviously we know that a lot more is going to be expected of him this season. He's, going to be
for sure
next to Austin Matthews. Those two guys are the ones we're going to be looking to, to lead this team into the next era, however that may be.
Yeah. And going back just to that golden puck for the Swedish award that he got, I guess the last winner the previous season was Gustav Forsling of the Florida Panthers. And then previous to that was Erik Karlsson when he was with San Jose, and he had that unbelievable season. Yeah. And then previous to that was Gabriel Landeskog of Colorado Avalanche. So he's in with quite a nice bit of company there for Willie.
Obviously we don't know when Mats has won it, but we're sure that he has won it as well.
Yeah,
some point in the past. So
that's for sure. Yeah. Yeah. So, but it has been quiet, like we said. So with the Leafs, so it's given us time to work on plans to update the podcast for this upcoming season. Be sure to hit that follow button to stay up to date on our show and the Leafs. And please share our show details with your friends if you can. Word of mouth is important for us to get more people following us and listening to the show. So follow us on Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio. Ladies Talking Leafs is available wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts, or find us on our website, ladiestalkingleafs.com.
And if you are watching on YouTube, you can hit that subscribe button there and you won't miss an episode. And you'll also be able to watch all the video content from games we attend at Scotiabank Arena and from our road trips, which we are planning on hitting the road again this season. So look out for that. As we mentioned, it's been a pretty quiet summer for the Leafs, but we expect, or at least we hope, that GM Brad Treliving will be busier over the next several weeks as he continues to shape a different roster for the upcoming season. So to talk about this and other Leafs news, we welcome to the show sports journalist and author Damien Cox. So without any further ado, let's talk Leafs.
So for our first patio season episode, we are welcoming back to the show sports journalist and broadcaster Damien Cox.
Many Leaf fans know Damien from his sports columns with the Toronto Star newspaper. Damien is also an author of several books on hockey and a few on the Leafs as well, including The Last Good Year, which is about the Leafs' magical 1993 playoff run. Of course, we remember that very vividly.
Yeah.
And he has also covered many other sports, including the Olympics and major tennis tournaments like Wimbledon. Welcome to the show again, Damien, and thanks for joining us on this lovely sunny day.
Yeah, It's a spectacular one today. Hot, absolutely.
Hot.
And thanks for inviting me. I appreciate it.
All right. So just want to get your thoughts, I guess. We'll get right into it. After MLSE let go of President Brendan Shanahan and the departure of star player Mitch Marner, he wrote an article saying MLSE overreacted, and it was fed by the outrage of fans and some of the media. Do you still feel the same way, that it was an overreaction that way?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah?
I do. And even more to the point, I look at the moves they've made and what they appear to be trying to do, and it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I mean, look, I think they're still going to have a good hockey team next season. They were a first place team last year. I imagine they'll be in that 100-point range again next year, because they've still got great goaltending, some star players, a pretty sturdy defense, and they've got a lot of good elements. I just don't see how they're going to be better. And if you're looking for them to want to be better, that means taking the next step, going a little bit further. And I think lots of times fans react very emotionally to defeats and to victories, but also to defeats. And I think it's the responsibility of teams, ownership, management, not to overreact emotionally, not to react emotionally, but to react logically and analytically, with the number one thing being, how do we get better? How do we make a team better? I didn't see that happening in this case. I saw scapegoating, and I saw, let's pin the blame on somebody, and then we'll move on and keep doing whatever we're doing. So that's what I saw out of the Leafs, and we're going to see.
The fact that it was,
what happens.
Sorry to interrupt you, but the fact that it's been like 10 years with Brendan Shanahan and his Shana plan, and nothing, I guess, in the playoffs. They've been a great regular season team, but in the playoffs, it just hasn't happened with his group. But so you just think it's like, do you think it's just not enough change, I guess? As of right now, we're in August, right? So there's still a month. But
we can't change. Nobody changes that much, right? I mean, in the league, because of the salary cap and because of the nature of long-term contracts, who's going to change a lot? Most of the teams come back with basically the same team. Like, of the key players, they roll over the bottom half of their roster. Everybody does the same thing. I think the only team to really make major change, two of them last year, one was Tampa, one was Nashville. And I didn't see either. Tampa went out in the first round, and Nashville was one of the worst teams. So simply changing because you wish you did better doesn't make a lot of sense. You know, David Poyle was in Nashville for what, 20 some years and never won a Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
And he's in the Hall of Fame. Now, I mean, Brendan Shanahan's in the Hall of Fame as a player. I didn't see the evidence of what he had done and the way he'd set up the organization that merited dismissal. Um, and I think it also, what do you think a president does? So they decided they needed somebody to throw to the fans. That's what I think happened. And so they threw Brendan Shanahan overboard. It was convenient. They could save money. They could save his salary because they didn't replace him. So that's always, ownership always loves that, saving money. And they put the team in the hands of a guy who's never really accomplished much of anything in the NHL. And that's Brad Treliving. So I lose the logic here at some point as to what the objective is.
So I've got a question with regards to the management then. So about a year ago, we had you on, and that was not long after they hired Keith Pelly. And you gave us some real insight into kind of how he operates. Are you kind of surprised with, what he's sort of done in this first year? And do you think that has something to do ultimately with some of the changes they're making now, in mind for next year's free agent class, which is going to be a lot stronger, for example?
Well, it might be. We'll see who signs between now and then, right? With their teams. I'm a little surprised, but on the other hand, I think my surprise is probably ownership is changing. And, Pele has been hired by this ownership group to, not just to do things with the Leafs, but to do things with all the teams and the entire organization. So, I mean, I wasn't surprised that he didn't come in guns a-blazing when he was first hired and start firing people as many thought he would. So I think there was disappointment that they couldn't beat Florida. And therefore, again, it was an emotional reaction. And they decided that that had to go. But what was ownership telling Keith Pelly? And what was he trying to tell ownership? So I haven't talked to him. We talked a little bit earlier in the summer, but I really haven't talked to him. So I can't really give you any more insight into exactly what he's thinking beyond, I'm sure what he'd say is, we had to try something different. And that may be enough for a lot of fans just to try something different.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's keep the topic then, moving a little bit more to Mitch Marner. And now that he's moved on. So what do you think? You touched on this a little bit already. What do you think of the changes that Brad Treliving has made so far in the roster? So like he's added, some forwards like Macceli and Nick Roy and just recently Dakota Joshua and, some departures like Ryan Reeves, for example. What do you think of what he's done so far?
Yeah, I feel like we've had this conversation before in that I look at the Maple Leafs, once again, when it mattered, couldn't score. In the final 4 games of the series against Florida, unless I'm wrong, they scored 4 goals. You're not going to win many series scoring 4 goals. So what did they do? They got rid of their leading scorer.
Yeah, but he didn't produce that much in the playoffs either.
Still, he's their leading scorer.
Yes.
So if you look at that team and say that team to be successful needs to create more offense, I don't see anything they've done that has created more offense. They've added size. You mentioned Dakota Joshua. So now we're going down the Brad Treliving path that he did in Calgary, bringing in size and beef and not valuing skill in quite the same way. So that didn't work in Calgary. So now the Keith Pelly and the Leafs are betting that the same formula is going to work in Toronto.
Yeah, but
look, I understand with Mitch Marner why I think they wanted to break the cycle of paying a few guys a whole bunch of money. I get that. I understand why he may have decided he wanted to go.
That's what I was going to get at. It's like, it seems like it was in the cards for a while and they wanted to bring him back. Like, what do you think they would have had to have done to be able to bring him back, or would it have been possible at all?
It's hard to say. I have to believe he would have wanted to come back under the right circumstances. But when it goes that long and you stretch it out and you stretch it out and, you know, you kind of allow him to be, you know, exposed. Like, there's 31 other teams in the league who want Mitch Marner. Why do the Leafs not want him? You know, are the Leafs so good that they can afford to get rid of really good players?
I honestly think they did want him to come back, but I don't know. From all the things I was hearing,
the answer was to keep Mitch Marner and build a better team around him. Find a way to do that. Let John Tavares go. Use that money. Bring in some other guys. That to me made a lot more sense. John Tavares scored in 1 of 7 games against Florida. But why is not everybody jumping up and down and saying, you know, he didn't come through in the playoffs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Instead, oh, it's great. He's coming back at a hometown discount. We love John Tavares. That sort of, like, again, I think there's the emotion and then there's the reality. And I think these things are emotional and people are emotional about their teams, but it's incumbent upon the team not to be emotional. And look, you can let Mitch Marner go if you want. You can let anybody go if you want. I just think, how did you get better? I mean, do you guys see this as a better hockey team?
Not yet, no. But I think you're right. I guess the way Leaf fans are, they basically want that. They want to see the player show something of, like, wanting to be here. And Mitch Marner didn't show that throughout the year. I mean, he didn't really say anything about it. But I mean, John Tavares, he always said he wanted to be here throughout the season, and Marner didn't. And I mean, I understand.
You think that's why they let him go? Because he didn't say anything in the newspaper?
No, I think they didn't let it. I think they let him go ultimately because they didn't want to pay him what he wanted to be paid. He probably wanted to stay here. He probably wanted to be paid as much as Auston Matthews, or maybe even more.
Right. And I think if you look in the league now where the salary cap's going to jump and then jump and jump over the next 3 years, you're going to see, I imagine Vegas is going to end up feeling they got a pretty good deal. Like, Mitch Marner is going to be great in Vegas.
Oh yeah,
he's going
to make the Leafs look bad.
Yeah, maybe until the playoffs and he can't score there too.
Yeah, well, I mean, I hear I hear that, but you know, Mitch Marner has been a winner throughout his entire career. When somebody had to, who passed the puck to Connor McDavid to win whatever the tournament was called last winter?
Four Nations,
it was Mitch Marner.
Yeah.
Well, there's no doubt he can make those incredible plays for sure.
Well, he's an elite offensive hockey
Absolutely.
player.
That's not the argument at all.
No, but hang on a sec. But also kills penalties.
Mm-hmm.
So he plays a regular shift, runs your power play, kills penalties. And he's deemed a failure in the eyes of Toronto hockey fans.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't think anybody thinks he's a failure. I think that ultimately, like you said, it comes to putting the puck in the net. And when you have the elite toys that we have, him being one of them, and it's like now all eyes are going to be on Auston Matthews for sure.
But
he's going to have to show up. But
to your point, you said it's all about putting the puck in the net. So why a different standard for John Tavares, who doesn't kill penalties and also didn't score in the playoffs?
Part
but
of
he
it
comes
is
back.
But he's not in his prime, and he's not being paid. He's not going to be paid those dollars. And he did have a great season this year.
Well, so did Mitch Marner.
He had 38.
Mitch Marner was the team's leading scorer.
I know that, but the thing is I don't know. Like, it's ultimately there's
difference too. Like obviously being in your
he's
prime,
not in his prime anymore.
Not his prime anymore, John Tavares.
So I just think, and obviously we don't agree on this, and that's fine. And I think a lot of Leaf fans feel like you do.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people in the media in Toronto feel like you do. So we don't have to agree.
Right.
What I would say, is this is a Toronto thing, which is point the finger at one guy.
Oh yeah.
And it's also and if you go back to 1978, Leafs beat the New York Islanders. New York Islanders were a favorite to win the cup that year. They had a super strong team, a young team. And what did they do after losing to the Leafs? Nothing. And it wasn't their first playoff failure. And they kept their team together. They built around that core that they had. They brought in Butch Goring eventually. They brought in some other venture, and then they end up winning 4 Stanley Cups. They didn't react to the emotion of losing to a team they thought they should beat, which was the Toronto Maple Leafs. Interestingly enough, the Leafs then lose to Montreal, and next year lose to Montreal again, and tear their team apart, and then end up going into a decade of awful hockey. So...
Yeah, but that's Harold Ballard era. I mean, you could argue that it hasn't changed much.
Yes,
in a sense.
I'm saying that it's a Toronto thing.
Yeah.
If we don't win now, then let's rip it up, or people have to go, or more particularly whether it's Larry Murphy or whoever you want to pick out. They love to pick one guy and say, that's the guy. That's the guy.
But they haven't ripped it up for 9 years, though. They haven't done that.
Right.
Yeah.
So in this regard, that's why it's when push comes to shove, they need to make a change. The whole thing is
See, that doesn't make sense to me, though.
Yeah, but a lot of it is the timing of these things as well. Because really, the decision on Mitch Marner probably should have happened 2 off seasons ago. And it didn't happen then. So if they were going to make a change, that's probably when it should have been done.
Whose fault is that?
Well, then we're going back to, Shanahan and the management at the time.
But
maybe.
Again, who's the GM?
And Kyle Dubas. Yeah.
Well, no, but then it was Brad Treliving who had 2 years to sort this out and didn't do it.
But he had just come in.
Yeah.
So
he's not a raw rookie. He's an super experienced guy.
And I think this is probably the other intangible thing about Toronto is that every single, executive or person that comes here wants to be the guy. And because we've had these shiny toys, they come in and they're like, I want to crack at getting these guys to accomplish the big thing. And so I can see why when you're coming in new, you don't want to be the one to pull the trigger on that immediately. You want to see exactly what you can do. And same thing, they bring in Berube last summer. What was the first thing? He was at a coffee shop in Etobicoke with Mitch Marner. That was the news everywhere. And again, it was same thing. He wanted a shot to see what he could do with all of them together. I do really feel like that is part of the equation. And even when Brian Burke came in, all the talk, the truculence and everything, it's all about that. Everybody who comes in here wants to be the one to take these guys to the promised land.
Right.
And so,
yeah. Well, all I can tell you is that in Calgary, Brad Treliving traded away Sam Bennett, couldn't sign Matthew Tkachuk, couldn't sign the late Johnny Gaudreau.
Mm-hmm.
And you can say, well, that's Calgary and that's a different situation and those are different players. And we can always say that's different. But, look at Brad Treliving's record. So now you're telling me that all of a sudden, and maybe this will happen, he's going to become the best GM in hockey or one of the very best GMs in hockey. All his record, everything that's happened, that's going to go out the window. And he's all of a sudden going to be, and it could happen. Sure. I mean, he could make a bunch of moves, but you said they're not better yet.
No.
What do we think's going to happen?
I kind of feel like I've been saying all along that I think they're taking a bit of a step back this year because there's just going to be
to take a step back.
Well, they don't need to, but
the clock
I think they're going to.
The clock is ticking on Austin Matthews.
Well, I don't mean a step back for the playoffs next year. I mean a step back for the regular season and then see what they can do at the trade deadline to, get somebody that they could maybe trade in the off season or sign in the off season and see what they can do there. Because, depending on who gets signed, like you said, by their teams,
Right. But generally we know every year hoping for the trade deadline to bring in that missing element.
Yeah.
It never happens because those guys aren't available. You build your team from June, July through, September, October. That's your team.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so what you're seeing now is that's their team. So I don't know. I mean, you've got Austin Matthews in his prime, William Nylander in his prime, and you're taking a step back.
Well, more is going to be
think-
expected too of those guys.
Yeah.
So,
but do you not think
Right.
Austin Matthews now will, like, he'll be the one, or should be the one, to take the team to another level? He's the captain. I don't know what you think about his first year of the captain.
I think it's a team game, and if you're looking at one guy to take the team to another level,
Doug Gilmour did, though, in '93. He took it to another level
with a really great Wendell Clark.
Yeah,
and
Yep. But they were. I'm not sure. And here now I'm going to say, but that was a very different situation. But I mean, sometimes individually. But I mean, Austin Matthews is already one of the 2 or 3 best players in the league. How much better is he going to get? He scored 69 goals 2 years ago.
Well, he surely can be better than he was last year. Which we can say was a down year.
But I think but hurt. But hey, they're facing elimination against Florida, and who scores the goal? Austin Matthews. So, But
the way you're portraying Mitch Marner, I just kind of see it as like taking him out of the equation. Now it's like the team itself is going to be like worse. But I mean, yes, he's obviously there.
I don't know that they'll be worse. I just don't see how they'll be better. And I think there's a difference. Right. And at the same time, look, I understand it was Mitch Marner's decision at the end of the day.
Yeah.
I understand that they wanted to get away of this, like I said, paying a bunch of money to a few guys, a few offensive players. I get that. And none of this has really been explained. And I'm not sure I understand what the plan is. The best I can tell is the plan is to bring in a bunch of big guys. And now we're back to the Brian Burke, be truculent, be aggressive, be physical, and try to do it that way.
Well, Florida's done it that way, really, too.
Right. Well,
yeah.
But what's the number one element why Florida's done it? The goaltending.
Well,
and that's another reason why I think it was a real overreaction to losing to Florida. What happened in game 1? Sam Bennett clubs Anthony Stolarz. The league says, I don't see anything. And so they lose their number one goalie for the whole season. Now flip those. What if that happens the other way? What if it's Bobrovsky who gets knocked out in the first game and Stolarz plays the whole series? Might have been a different series, right?
Mm-hmm.
So again, you have to look at all the facts. We went through this last year where when they'd been beaten in the playoffs, but Matthews had missed a couple of games in that year. Remember, Nylander had been hurt. Marner had been playing hurt. You have to look at the facts and that's why I struggle with it's been 10 years and you got to change something. I think you have to be more analytical than that.
All right. We're going to move off of this.
we can agree to disagree.
Mm-hmm. All right, we want to move on and get your thoughts on the NHL and the NHLPA agreeing to a 4-year CBA that runs through the 2029-2030 season. And what do you think are a couple of changes that will have the biggest impact from that deal? Like, is it like there's the 84-game schedule? Do you like?
Yeah.
Is there the playoff salary cap, or I guess that loophole now for using the LTIR is not going to be there. There's the emergency.
They'll find another loophole.
Is there anything from that?
I mean, I don't see it as a real ground shaking change.
Nothing?
It's not like in 2006 when the salary cap came in and then they made all the changes to the game. Everything is pretty subtle now. My sense is part of this was to lay the ground to expand more. And it's hard to expand when you've got labor unrest and uncertainty. Now they've got a deal in place. They obviously want to go back to Atlanta. You tell me why.
Yeah.
And they probably want to go to Houston or, find another team on the West Coast maybe or whatever. So, I mean, and because that's what owners do. Owners, this is about money. It's not about winning and losing, but about money for them. It's a business. And Gary Bettman has run this play over and over and over again, which is expand, and keep charging more for teams. I would imagine it's going to be close to, it may even be more than $1 billion for the next NHL expansion team. So I sort of get the sense that's what they're trying to set themselves up for. Let's keep the peace. Everybody's making money. Players are making a lot of money. The cap's going up again. They survived COVID when it looked really dire there for a while in some of those cities. What was going to happen? They're back into the Olympics temporarily, or maybe who knows what that is. Now you can set it up to expand again, and they're always in search of new broadcast dollars, which is something they've always been in search of. And it doesn't matter how bad the TV numbers are with ESPN. I think we all know that the television world and the streaming world is so fractured now. It's hard to really make much sense of who's watching at what level. So that's what I guess. I don't think anybody was saying, let's have more regular season games.
Yeah.
But that's what they're doing.
I know.
It has nothing to do with hockey or making the games better or entertain the fans more. It has to do with the business of the game.
Yeah. I don't know. I do like the whole playoff salary cap, they probably will find another loophole, but I like that because last year would have been beneficial for the Leafs going back to them with Auston Matthews. I always thought, why not sit him out from November when he went to Frankfurt or wherever in Germany for his medical treatment? Why not just keep him out and do the whole Nikita Kucherov thing and bring him back in March or just for the playoffs?
Yeah, well, we've seen that played over and over. Vegas is as good at it as anybody, right?
Yeah, so they created it, and now, anyways, that's not going to be possible anymore. But as of not this coming season, the following season. But yeah, and the whole emergency backup goalie, I think that's good. Then we won't have another David Ayres situation, I guess, for that.
Yeah, I never understood why people found that so endearing and exciting and thrilling. I just never figured that out.
Well, sitting there in the stands, I can tell you we weren't too endeared by it. That's for sure.
But if it's the NFL and the starting quarterback gets hurt and then the other quarterback gets hurt, they don't bring in somebody off the street who's playing high school football and say, "Oh, look, isn't this fun?" It was just a way it was just cheap. It made the league look cheap, but they didn't want to do what you have to do to have enough goalies around. So, but yet I hear people lamenting the end of the E-bug. And I suppose in some cases there were interesting individual stories, but as someone who watches the game, I don't want them to bring in some college guy to play goal in the third period. So, to me, those are all little tinkering things. The gist of the league and the way and the most important stuff kind of all remains about the same.
All right. So one final question about the Leafs, and then we'll switch gears a little bit. So what do you think is the biggest question mark for the team going into this 25-26 season?
Well, I think if I were to look at them and imagine how they would take another step forward, it'll be if Matthew Knies becomes the next level of player that he's really looked at times last year like he could be. He's got a new 6-year, $46 million contract. How will that impact him? It impacts a lot of players different ways. But what we saw last year, a lot of the year, was this guy has a chance to be a total beast out there. He's not a mean guy, so I don't know if he's going to be running around hurting people like some of the guys who are fit his mold in the past. But the net front presence he gave that team last year was very different than what they'd had before. So, like, to me, he would be a guy. I think goaltending solid. On the blue line, you like how they defend, but they create no offense. So can they find somebody to play in that back end who could give them something offensively? It doesn't appear as though Morgan Riley's going to be able to, add another level unless he can come back. You got a sense that he struggled a little bit with adjusting to Craig Berube.
And from that, though, don't you think, like with going back to Marner too, don't you think that the fact that Marner's gone now, like Morgan Riley can again, like go back to being on the power play and be the, I guess, the driver on the point?
I thought the power play was just as good, if not better, with Marner. I mean, remember when Riley was running it, they didn't do anything in the playoffs for that. I don't. To me, I love Morgan Riley.
Yeah.
I think he's a terrific character. I think he's, you love those long-term players. Great player, great competitor, but he's not an elite power play quarterback. He just isn't. He doesn't have the shot. They don't have anybody with a shot that can make a difference. I really thought after last season that a really good target for them would have been Brandon Montour, who instead went out to Seattle because of that big shot from the power play.
Right.
That kind of can be a bit of a game changer, even in this league where no one scores from 60 feet out, but the shot does open up other possibilities.
Yeah.
So to me, Matthew Nyes, if he takes a jump and becomes that next level player, that's the one I'm gonna watch.
Yeah, me too. I'm excited to see what he does this season for sure.
Oh, there were times last year he went, holy smokes, like just his physical domination makes him really interesting.
Yeah, and I love his attitude too. Like he just seems to be soaking it all in and just enjoying every second. So that's great to see. All right, now we have a tennis question for you, sir. So there's obviously.
Are we going to agree to disagree again on the tennis?
I'm sure we will be in agreement. Anyway, so obviously there's some big news on the Canadian tennis front with Victoria Mboko winning the National Bank Open on the women's side this week. First thing is, can you tell us a little bit more about this athlete and give us your impression also on the state of Canadian tennis in general, especially in the wake of a couple of big retirements with Jeannie Bouchard and Vasek Pospisil hanging up the racket?
Well, I mean, as a Canadian tennis observer and enthusiast, I'm just thrilled to see another player come along because, as the era of Milos and Jeannie faded, we thought Bianca Andreescu was going to be that player, and obviously injuries and a whole bunch of other factors have meant that she hasn't been, and Felix and Shapovalov just haven't got to that next level. Looked like Felix was almost there. He's not. So now comes along Victoria Mboko. I can't say I know a ton about her. I don't know anybody who knows a ton about her, other than the fact that, she's been in the pipeline for a long time. Born in the U.S., has tennis playing siblings, grew up here in Southern Ontario, which is suddenly this hotbed we have. What do we have here in Southern Ontario? We have the best basketball player in the world. We have the best female swimmer in the world. And now we have maybe that one of the could be a Grand Slam winner. Who knows? Coming out of Burlington, Toronto, this whole area. So it's kind of amazing what that happened. I think everyone would have been excited for Mboko-ish when she got to the quarters, and then the semis just seemed like too much. To have her come and win the tournament after so many years of never having a Canadian winner, and now we've got 2 Canadian winners in 6 years. And unlike Andreescu, when she won, that was because Serena Williams quit after 5 or 6 games, whatever it was. So to have to grind out a win over Naomi Osaka was pretty darn impressive. There's an opportunity.
She was in the hospital too, I heard, and was there. She was like hoping to be able to play that match. I heard something about that.
Which one? Who are we talking about here?
Oh, was she? Was she in the
Victoria
hospital?
Mboko, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
She had some kind of injury trouble.
Well, she had that wrist injury that she
Yeah.
fell on, so I didn't hear that. But look, I think she's got a really good opportunity if she is what she has to be, and we have to see more. I think that was her 19th or 18th WTA match, the final.
Wow.
Like, that's kind of incredible.
Yeah.
Like, she's played that few matches, so we need to see more of her. What we've seen is extraordinary. And there is an opportunity right now, I would argue, in the women's game, with the absence of superstar players, for somebody to come through and really make a breakthrough, if they can. She's very young. She's 18 years old. But she seems to have a good support group around her. She's got her parents there. She seems to be a real solid citizen. She's physically strong, it appears. But tennis and women's tennis is a grind, and it is tough, and it is tough mentally and physically. So let's see. I'm excited. I think a lot of Canadians are excited, what the possibilities must be. But it's like no one could even reasonably say she's the next great player. We haven't seen her play enough. Like, let's see what happens when looks like she's now going to be seeded at the U.S. Open. So let's see what happens there at the U.S. Open on that stage. I think she was shocked that she won the tournament. And now she's got to be thinking, wow, I really can play with the best players on the WTA tour. And right now, there is an absence. Sabalenka is the best there is. I wouldn't put her up there with the Serenas and the Venuses and the great players of years gone by. So there's an opportunity for someone to come right through and maybe take advantage of that.
Well, we're going to be watching that, I guess. And it's exciting. Like you said, we've got some really great athletes, sprouting out in this area. And it's just so exciting to watch. All right. I think that's all we have for you. We're going to get back to enjoying our patio season. We thank you so much, Damien, for joining us again and being our guest. And so you can go and enjoy the rest of this lovely day.
I will do that. You guys have a great day too.
All right. So everyone, you can check out Damien's articles in the Toronto Star, and you will hear him on various sports talk radio programs throughout the NHL season as well. Thanks a lot, Damien.
Thanks, Damien.
Thank you.
All right. So thanks again to Damien for coming on the show. It was quite interesting. I just let you two go at it with a little bit of friendly agree to disagree conversation when it came to the whole Mitch Marner saga, I guess, coming to an end. And it's like he's not wrong too, like with what he's saying. It just but I mean, I don't know, come on, 10 years and it is about the playoffs. Yes, you need to get to the playoffs, and like giving up a player that is your leading scorer, or not giving up on him, because like Trello did try to sign him, but he had made up his mind, and Marner had, and he decided to go on with his playing career somewhere else. So good luck to him. And I mean, as for John Tavares and his comments about that, Damien did write another article about that. We'll put it in our show notes as well, the links to these articles, because they are interesting. I do kind of respect. I respect Damien for putting that different angle on it, right? Because almost everybody is taking the reverse angle, right?
And he's not wrong. And in the end, he's talking about evidence, and the evidence will be borne out. Like, we will see if this change is going to make any difference at all. Yeah. But 10 years is 10 years. And one thing I don't agree with what he said is I don't feel that this was change for change's sake. And I don't feel like it was a knee-jerk reaction. This is, it might have been a knee-jerk reaction, maybe 2 or 3 years ago. Potentially, I would have seen that a little bit more then. But now, sometimes it's the dynamics that need to be shaken up a little bit, and we'll see if it makes any difference. And it gives room for people like Matthews and Nylander to grow even more into their potential. They're coming into they're really right in the middle of their prime right now.
Mhm.
And he also mentioned Matthew Nyes, and this is another guy that there is now room for him to really, blossom, for lack of a better word, as a player on this team and take an even bigger role,
Yeah, and I'm one person that think that Morgan Rielly is going to come back better this season. And having, as long as Craig Berube gives him that opportunity to play the point on the power play, because that's where he made all of his points in years previous. That's why his point total was so low last year.
For sure. And they've really diminished that role of his over the last, even before Berube came, the seasons before that, Keefe also did that. Once they decided to, put Mitch more in the driver's seat there.
The 5 forwards. Yeah.
It 100% diminished his role as the quarterback. So it's going to change the dynamics for sure. And we're going to see if it's going to, make the change that we hope to see. Yeah. I, for one, am choosing to be optimistic on that front. So,
yeah, exactly.
All right. So before we go, and since we're closing in on the end of season 6 of our podcast, we want to thank all of our listeners in Canada and the United States. And we also want to give a special shout out to our audience in non-traditional hockey markets like Turkey, Hong Kong, France, and Singapore.
Yeah.
Interestingly, for season 6 of the podcast, these 4 markets we just mentioned, Turkey, Hong Kong, France, Singapore, have so far given us the highest number of listeners behind Canada and the US. So that just tells you how far-reaching Leafs Nation is. You can find Leafs Nation everywhere in the world. And we are so grateful to everyone who listens from every corner of the globe to our little show.
Yeah, I had to refresh a few times to make sure
incredible
to have Turkey right after US and then Hong Kong and then obviously France we've had for a little bit, but still it's great that they've stuck with us and keep listening to our show. And Singapore is fairly new. I don't recall Singapore being in there. And then, but yeah, no, it's great. Thank you so much. And we would love to hear from anyone listening to us in these faraway places. Send us an email to ladiestalkinleafs@gmail.com or DM us on social media. Our handle is @LTL1917 and let us know how you found out about us or even how you became a Leaf fan, or just say hi, right? We'd love to hear from you. Feedback from our listeners is so important, and we thank you for taking the time. And a reminder to our listeners on Spotify, we have a poll question for every show, and with a simple tap, you can let us know what you think of the show. It's I'm the one that does these questions, so please, I beg of you, give us some feedback from our poll if you're listening on Spotify. It would really encourage us to make improvements on the show too, because some of the questions I put in there are related to that, and just makes our show better for you.
And also, don't forget to look out for our show on the Believe Network. That's BLEAV. And you can find that at Believe.com. And another way to help us out is by visiting our Ko-fi page at Ko-fi.com as well. You can follow us there. And if you choose to, you can support us by buying us a coffee. Any donation goes towards helping us produce the show and making it even better for you. You can find the link to our Ko-fi page on our show notes or in any of our social media profile pages.
And as always, thank you to our healthcare workers and first responders for everything that they do.
And we thank you, as always, for listening and watching Ladies Talkin' Leafs. Till next time, go Leafs, go.
Do you believe?